Yeah, so I was in Chongqing last April, and I think I was there for 10 days in total. First time in China, yeah. My ex-coworker, yourself, at the time, was from Chongqing and told me all about it and piqued my interest. So I decided I'd take a trip over. Did a lot of looking on TikToks to see what the popular areas and areas of interest in Chongqing were. So there's some sites like there's some shopping mall on the outskirts that I wanted to see. There's this neighborhood with these walkways where you're at ground level, and then right in front of you there's a cliff with skyscrapers with bridges going across I wanted to see. So took a lot of research into finding out all the places I wanted to go to. Not just that, but there's also things like, for example, the light show on the building only comes on, I think it was 7 p.m. on each day. But that being said, there are some things which I wasn't prepared for when I got over. Like when I landed in, I thought having a bit of money and my debit card would be enough. That's normally what I have when I go to any country. But I only found out when I got in that actually what's used in China is WePay or Alipay everywhere, pretty much. You can only use cash for like national parks and public transport. When I first got there, I had an eSIM to be able to navigate and use data, but the Google Maps wasn't working, and I expected to be working with even with the eSIM and VPN. It wasn't working. So I didn't know about AMaps, so I was using Apple Maps. So once I got to the hostel, I was able to ask other people there, all about AMaps and Alipay and get sorted. But yeah, if you're traveling to China, just be prepared for that. When I was flying in on the plane, I remember looking down on the ground from below and seeing all these little dots. And I was like, what are all those little dots below? And about a few minutes later, there was thousands and thousands of dots covering the whole ground beneath me. And when the plane dropped down another couple hundred meters, I started realizing, these are actually skyscrapers. And just skyscrapers everywhere. Everywhere you could see, it was insane. Never seen so much infrastructure and so vast.
Yeah, Cyber City.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing to see, all right. Normally when you go to a country, like any countries I've been to at least, most people speak English. But in China, I would say less than 5% are fluent.
How about food there?
Be prepared for it to be spicy. In Chongqing, I think they're famous for a special type of pepper that has a sort of mouth-numbing feel. I liked the taste of it, but it was very spicy. Whenever I asked for my food, I'd ask for just a small bit of the spice. And then also be prepared. You might see on the menu like beef and pork noodle, but when it arrives, you might expect it to be like beef and pork fillets cut up, but what actually it might be is cubes of beef and pork stomach, say, in your noodles. I didn't mind it. I find it fine, but if you're like squeamish or not used to eating like organs, or there was one instance where I had like duck feet in a curry, just be prepared for that side of it.
Okay, have you tried the authentic hot pot there?
I did, yeah. The hot pot was very good, and you need to go with like a big group of people so you get lots of items and try all of it. Public transport was the best I've ever seen in any city. The railway was very good. Anytime I went down to the railway, a lot of the time I was just going around, and you can walk anywhere and see something that'll be amazing to you. Like there seemed to be a fair few amount of fluent English-speaking Chinese people who you could tell by the way they were dressed and the way they were walking, they were quite wealthy. And they would say things like, "What's up?" in like a really good American accent. It was kind of like really unexpected. You could tell they were
They're
native
talking
Chinese.
to you or they're
Talking to
just
me,
talking
just
to you?
like trying to practice their English, and they'd be
Okay.
like, "Oh, hey, what's up, man?" But like they're like Chinese people, and you're just not expecting this. Like you can tell they've been trained to have this American accent when they speak English, which I thought was really interesting when I was over there. And then also, there was one time I was asked to take a photo. Actually, no, twice. There was a good few interesting people. There was one guy who was like 18 and he visited the hostel I was staying in Chongqing. And when I was walking with him, we were walking, a group of 4 of us, to the hot pot restaurant. And he took out a pack of cigarettes. And I noticed the pack of cigarettes that he took out was very like nice design compared to like the Irish packs. You've got like health risks and like pictures of people with cancer. And I was like, geez, that's a really nice design of packet of cigarettes. And it's like nothing like what you could get in Ireland. And he's like, yeah, he was saying in China, it's almost, people see it as almost patriotic to smoke because the taxes are so high when you're smoking. They're like, oh, you're smoking for your country. was the thinking about it, which I thought that was quite funny. Advice for tourists coming over, like it'd be good if the government had like a list of apps that you should have on hand, like Didi and WeChat, and maybe it's the case I didn't do enough research, but I felt like there wasn't any official resources as to how you should be prepared for going over to China for the first time. Because when you're traveling somewhere, obviously I like to have the experience. I'm getting the authentic experience of the real place and not something that's catered for tourists. So I felt like when I was over there, Chongqing was one of the first places I've been to where I felt like, oh, I'm actually exploring somewhere and it's not just an artificial experience for tourists. So I really enjoyed it, and I don't have a whole lot of critique for my trip, and there's not much I can think of to improve.
Out of 10, how much you would rent for your trip to China?
Can I give like different aspects?
Yeah, of course.
So I would say in terms of like people, 8 or 9 out of 10. Food. So when I was over there, if you're the type of person that when you travel someplace, you want to have access to Western food, I don't recommend China. You need to be able to go over to China and be like, okay, I'll just eat what the locals eat. Otherwise, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
I didn't mind eating the food the locals eat with. Also, actually, another thing I'd say you struggle with, I know my sister has a peanut allergy. I would say it'd be very difficult if you were over there to communicate allergies when you're ordering food. For the food, for me personally, I'd give it 8 out of 10. Affordability, it was very affordable, like compared to traveling in Europe anyway. I would say in terms of traveling in Asia, it's probably a little bit more on the expensive side, like compared to a country like Thailand, but like China is a first world country, so you're going to expect to pay those sort of prices. But it was reasonably priced, I would say. So I'll give it 9 out of 10 on pricing. Scenery, I'll give it 10 out of 10. Wulong and Zhangjiajie were some of the most breathtaking places I've ever been. So 10 out of 10 on that front. Accommodation, well, I stayed in hostels and the hostels were all clean, staff were friendly. I'll give the accommodation 10 out of 10. Transport, the public transport in Chongqing was very good. But I remember on the train, when I got the train, I had booked a ticket, got a seat, no problem. But on the way to Zhangjiajie, it was a weekend, so it was very busy, and you could tell some people didn't have seats on the train, and it was like a 6-hour journey. I was like, I would not want to be on the train without a seat on that journey. For what environment, I'll give it like. The first half I was there, it was fine. I'll give it like 6, 7 out of 10. But the second half, I was there like the last 2 days I was in Chongqing, the air quality was poor, and I'll give it like a 3 or a 4. So, yeah, there's probably some luck involved as when you go over as what the air quality will be like. Overall for Chongqing and surrounding and Jiangxi, China, my China visit, I'll give it 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. Oh,
Yeah.
So if some people is watching the video right now, what you want to talk to them?
I definitely think if you're young and you want to go traveling to these places, if it's the case that you can, if you go on your own, you're going to meet a lot more interesting people and have more interesting conversations. When you travel in a group, you're going to stick to the people in your group and you'll be less likely to talk to other people for advice or just to make conversation. So going on my own was definitely a big plus because it forced me to talk to locals and talk to other tourists. And at the end of the day, you're just going to have better stories to tell, I think, if you go on your own. I know not everyone can feel comfortable, or like it might be a safety issue if you're, say, a girl going on your own late at night. But if you can, I would highly recommend going on your own.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for taking this interview.
No worries.